Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Tristian Grider, of course, of the Indy, one of three of the Indy Boys Podcast. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, it's going great, man. Happy to be on.
So how did this all start?
Yeah, so Indy Boys, back in 2021, I was approached by one of my college professors to start a podcast on campus. They wanted to expand. They wanted a podcast network, and so I was approached by her to have me start a racing show. And so I contacted my friend from high school, Daniel Chaney, because we went to high school together. We were friends, and he put me in contact with Justin Cox. And together we kind of just formed a show, and it's been we just started our second season, so it's entering our second year of doing this.
Yeah. So and then you've also made some pretty some fast friends, especially in the IndyCar world. I see my good buddy David Malukas comes on there a lot. So obviously I've known David for a long time as well. But overall, I mean, what's it just like to, it's like, hey, we're doing something. And I mean, I think you said on last week's Stingray Rob's coming on.
Yeah, Stingray's gonna come on the show tomorrow. That goes live tomorrow night at 7:30. But yeah, Stingray, David, Dalton Kellett, Hunter McElray, those are just a couple of the IndyCar connections that we've been able to build over the last couple of years. But the biggest reason I would say that we've built those connections is just because we are more aimed towards a younger audience, and so younger drivers like to come on to the show.
Absolutely.
And like kind of just like see that they get to relax, which is nice. And like I don't ask them, or we don't ask them, like very pressing questions. So
Sure.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. Did you of course this I know that of course you live in Indy, so of course IndyCar, I'm pretty sure how many times have you been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
There's too many to count. I went to I think I went the first time in 2004, maybe 2005.
Okay.
And I've gone back every year since. I mean, I was there a couple days ago. So I mean, like it's a lot. Like I just go a lot.
I mean, we're next week IndyCar starts, and also F1 starts in 2 weeks as well. So we're really getting, I think NHRA starts in the next few weeks too. So everything's really kind of getting going here. How excited are you for IndyCar and F1?
Definitely extremely excited for IndyCar this year. In my opinion, and in a lot of race fans' opinion, that IndyCar was the best, probably the best motorsports series last season. I thought IndyCar was incredible. There wasn't really a race that missed until the second Indy GP. But IndyCar, I'm really excited for that. There's a lot of new drivers in new places. It'll be a really competitive year. For F1, again, a lot of new drivers in new places, hoping that this season could be a little bit more competitive. And not just have to, and that way Max doesn't go through and win every single race, as much as I think though he is going to win the championship again. But yeah, I think I'm really excited about IndyCar and F1. Should be a pretty fun open wheel year.
Yeah, you notice I left out one series. Of course, NASCAR started this week. Well, yes, technically, yes, they did. Of course, trucks, Xfinity, ARCA, and the Daytona 500. What did you think about that race? Because that was interesting.
About Daytona?
Yes.
The 500? Yeah. I liked the 500 this year. I still am on the side of that. I wish it would start earlier.
Yeah.
I think 3:00 is nice for people that are on the West Coast, but for people that are on the Midwest and the Eastern side, like myself, 3:00 and then ending at like 7 is a little bit late. But otherwise, I thought the race was really good. It didn't look like it was. I feel like pretty constantly side by side action the entire time. Wasn't really a whole lot of like changing up at the front with drafting wise. Apparently, drivers that I've talked to at least say that you can't really go 3 wide in the corners at Daytona in the next gen car. But otherwise, I thought it was pretty solid racing. Obviously, really always cool to see a guy win his first 500 with Ricky. Ricky's a super nice guy. And he snaps the longest winless streak of current NASCAR drivers. I think next race would have been 200. It was in 199 races since he last won. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, might have to go. Everyone might have to go to their local Kroger too. Excuse me.
I would agree. Yeah.
Um, so also Xfinity, that was interesting. So what did you think about that? Because here's the other thing. We had one car basically dominate the entire race, and then you had all those junior motorsports cars that were all connected together. Remember, this is the first weekend that's the choose rule is on the super speedways, so that's kind of why they all linked all together. But overall, I mean, it's like it seems like the 21 is so really really good on super speedways, and then you have, I mean, the junior motorsports cars they were good as well. But they fell apart early. That fell about late, and of course Sam Mayer goes on his lid.
Yeah, I feel like Austin Hill. I mean, I personally going into the weekend, I picked Austin Hill to repeat. So I got myself a point for predictions. But yeah, out of the top 3 series of NASCAR, I think Austin Hill is a top super speedway driver in the Cup Series. I think he's going to win races probably in the Cup Series level of super speedways. He's really solid there. So I always look to him to be fast at this style of racing. For junior motorsports though, they were set, man. I mean, they had a train of four cars, with that train being leaded by Josh Berry. And then it seemed one thing went wrong after another. Josh Berry runs out of gas. Brandon Jones gets spun by his teammate. Sam Mayer leaves Justin Allgaier, ends up on his roof, and then Allgaier finishes third. It kind of fell apart for that team. It reminded me a little bit of what happened last season at Phoenix. But overall, I thought it was really good racing. Of the 3 races this weekend, I still do believe that Xfinity was probably the best for racing as racing goes itself. Yeah, overall, it was just really interesting to see some new drivers in the field, but to see repeat winners like Zane Smith and Austin Hill, which had a lot of Penske fans believing that Cindric was locked into his second Daytona 500.
And he could have got it too, because the thing is, Cindric was right there, and of course he got caught up in one of the late big ones at the end of the race. You're forgetting. The thing is, it's like there was another race. Of course, that's the ARCA race. By the way, the only race to finish at the line under green at the checker. How about Greg Van Els, an Indiana native like yourself? I don't know how far. I know he goes like, I don't know if you've been to Anderson Speedway before, but
Oh, I've been to Anderson a lot. Yeah. So Jay is actually from Anderson, Indiana, Justin Cox. And we know Greg through Jay's family. And so really exciting to get to see a guy who's tried so long and is finally going to go full time in ARCA, getting his sort of like vibe there. And so happy for Greg. He's worked hard for a family-owned team with no full-time employees. It's awesome for a short track guy like himself to get a win, and the biggest win of his career up to this point.
Yeah, Daytona. It just seemed like that at Daytona. It just seemed like all those. I mean, it just seemed like that race was a little more competitive, because we always saw the Toyotas and the Venturini cars get away from so long, but it just seemed like the field was more competitive. And
I mean, I agree with that for sure, but I mean, like when you look at ARCA races in the past, I feel like, I don't know how many times you go to see ARCA cars, but the last ARCA race that I went to in person was at IRP, and it was like the only car in the field that was competitive.
That's true. I mean, yes, that is true, and it's obviously I know that world very very well. But the thing is, it's like there's a lot of top teams that are out of the series, but there's a lot of cars that have been bought by a lot of these teams. So a lot of people in that world that I've talked with it seems like it could be one of the most competitive fields out there. Obviously, we'll have to look and see what Phoenix and Talladega should be pretty good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The short tracks look like, and what the the other races look like. But, well, I think we're in for a pretty good show. Um, yeah. Overall, who impressed you out of the four series? If there's
This weekend, I was very impressed by Anthony Alfredo, um, a guy who I've known in the past over the years, a guy who has Cup Series experience. Had a little bit of a rough year last year with Our Motorsports, going back to his first actual full-time season in the Xfinity Series last year with Our, missing the playoffs, leaving that team to go to BJ McLeod. Very impressed that he made the first round of qualifying, that he made it out of the first round of qualifying, was able to qualify 10th for that race. He impressed me a lot. In the Truck Series, very impressed by Christian Eckes.
yeah,
Switching teams is always rough. And then when you go,
Masters is another one. Of course,
yeah.
after so many years with Toyota, of course he's with Chevrolet now.
And it's exciting to see. I mean, last season when I talked to Christian, he was like, after like, like you always talk about silly season stuff after the interview's done and stuff. And so we talked and I was like, so like contract stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm leaving. And I was like, okay, like, where are you going? He's like, no idea. So it was good to see that he was able to sign with Bill, because that's a competitive seat. And nothing against Derek Kraus, but I feel like some of that equipment was being wasted at some of these tracks. And when you have a driver like Christian Eckes, who is going to be a Cup Series driver eventually, you have a better chance of getting to victory lane. Plus now he's a Napa driver, so maybe that leads to Hendrick in the future. I don't know, but I was excited for Eckes. P3 podium. Sad that he I don't know if you saw the tweet, but called Zane Smith a Mickey Mouse winner, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But both those guys,
Friends, so.
yeah, both those guys are really good friends. They've been racing each other for years. So pretty funny. But yeah, definitely Anthony Alfredo and Christian Eckes were the guys that most impressed me this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're gonna go to Auto Club with Xfinity and Cup, and I know, and then next week I know you guys are gonna be pretty slammed with all three, with IndyCar and F1 starting. Well, first let's talk about Auto Club. Who do you? And obviously, I'll let you save your pick for your show, but who are you looking at right now?
I'm really looking at Trackhouse. The Chevys were really fast at Auto Club last year with Hendrick and Trackhouse dominating most of that race. I'm really looking at Daniel Suarez. This is a really good track for him. He really is well at those like 2-mile tracks. But I'm also looking at drivers at Toyota. We saw Michigan be really strong for 2311 racing. In those like 2-mile tracks. And since this is the last year with the current Auto Club configuration,
Yeah.
I'm always looking at Alex Bowman because he's the track killer. So I think Alex Bowman could be definitely there to get into victory lane, seeing as he already has a win on this track. So I'm looking at Bowman, Suarez, and Tyler and Bubba Wallace at 2311.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Tristan, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, and let's have you on again sometime later in the year.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Just let me know.